Welcome, guys, to the Urban Crossfire podcast. Quick words from Carl Jung.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So, okay, Jorge, is that name? So, Carl Jung, Carl Gustav Jung. Actually, I'll read who he is. One of the world's greatest psychiatrists, reveals how to embrace our own humanity and resist the pressures of an ever-changing world. And a quote that he has, he says, "As far as we can discern, the sole purpose of human existence is to kindle a light of meaning in the darkness of mere being." So, what do we mean when we say something like that? What do we mean, the darkness of mere being?
I don't know.
I mean, if you think about it, like consciousness, influence, all those things that like follow us, they weigh heavy, like they're laden, as Nietzsche would call it. They're on you, I mean, for a lot of people, those are the things that define them. So I mean, if you don't have any like driven purpose or like a bridge to cross, you're just a guy standing there with like billboards around you. It's like, hey, these are the things that define me. And I mean, those are things that are like things that people enjoy, I would assume, like fishing, hunting, politics, but like those aren't you.
Yeah. What would you describe yourself like? Something interesting about you? I can never come up with anything.
And that's my problem. I'm like, for sometimes it's kind of hard, but like right now, I think a core part of me is just self-discovery, like just trying to figure out who I am. And I mean, I'm probably gonna learn in this book, because I just picked up 2 books, that one Carl Jung book and also the Philosophic Quest, from Socrates to Sartre, and it talks even about Marx in this book. It's kind of wild, but they go on from like chapters like shadow and substance and Plato's sources, or like concepts of philosopher kings and shit like that. And in Jung's book, his contents are like the plight of the individual in the modern society, religion as the counterbalance to mass mindedness. I do not know how to say that word. The position of the West on the question of religion, the individual understanding of himself, the philosophical and psychological approach to life, and number 6, self-knowledge. And then followed by that, he says the meaning of self-knowledge. There's a meaning to self-knowledge. So I mean, Carl Jung, he goes on, he talks about like archetypes, like shadow beings, and like how, I wish I brought my notebook because I like took a whole note on this, but he talks about the idea of like a self under the self, like you have to fall through like a kind of metaphorical floor in order to like meet the under you. And like there's levels to not only understanding, but like
It's like just meeting your subconscious.
Oh, I mean,
things
like,
things that you've basically automated that you don't really think about anymore, and you try to find deeper meaning. Yeah.
Because I watched, like, I mean, it's still on topic, but like I watched this guy named, his last name is like Mate. He's a doctor, and he's like a rehab doctor, and he helps like people with their like traumatic past to get through their addiction, basically. And he says like through modern science, they don't even talk about the fact that like how much trauma lays on you, and like how, because they've done like multivariate analysis on this. So there's this idea that there's like several like triggers when you're a kid, from even like your parents, how they react to you, how they like tell you things, how they like yell at you, or like things like that, or like if they become more
authoritarian.
Yeah, sorry. But they become more that, like you become like this person who's not really for yourself, and like you're more likely to fall into habits like drinking, addiction, just like really things that can be viewed as self-sabotage.
Right.
And it could all be explained from like you understanding your relationship with your parents and how you react to like how you treat yourself type thing. And a lot of people, they talk about it, and he was talking to someone.
So it's like, sorry to interrupt you, it's like basically we gotta like try to find like our own character, because throughout our most of our entire years in the beginning, basically almost like 20 years, like have you ever heard that like if you wanted to know how somebody is, just look at their parents or some shit, like how they are.
Yeah, I mean, for a lot of people, they become like rebels just to exceed the like eye of their parent, or like to. I mean, he says Garbor Mate, Doctor Mate. He talks about the idea that like behavior is one of those things that people will adopt. Like they see it and then they adopt it. It's one of those things where they just take it on and they live through it without really noticing it, because as kids we're like fucking sponges, bro. Like we take everything. Like we hear everything. We say everything.
Yeah.
We ask questions because we know they step into territories of like unboundness. So like he gave the example of someone who grew up in a household where they didn't really talk about their feelings, so like anger was like unhinged, and like you'll have a parent who sees a kid act out and they'll tell that kid like, hey, bad kids don't get this, when in reality it's like, hey, when you're unnatured, you're not loved type. And he like basically goes there, and that's how like the perception can be like, oh yeah, if you act out then you're not going to get like the kind of nurturing like meaning seeking type of parent. You're just going to get like someone who's wanting to step away from you because they don't know how to deal with like situations like that.
Right.
Or like I'll even see it in my parent where sometimes we'll argue and my mom is like constantly trying to prove her case, and that's literally what we're doing to each other. We're just like trying to make sure we understand each other to a degree to where she will just like dismiss the whole conversation or like dismiss the whole argument or whatever. And I try not to argue, but it's like one of those things where you just get caught up in the moment of like trying to prove yourself, when in reality like no one's really trying to hear you because they already have like their set mind. So I mean, if you grow up in a household where as soon as a problem happens you have someone that's solution seeking, who doesn't really want to argue, they only want to know like what to do about it, then you'll grow up like that, basically.
Right.
Because that's how you look at situations. And I mean, for a lot of people, I think Alan Watty talks about this, where like so many people will talk about definitions to the point to where it's tis and tisn't. Like, oh, tis this. No, tisn't that. Tis this. And then they just keep doing that over and over again till they trap themselves in like paradoxes where you're like talking about the same thing.
Right.
But
because like you basically already have your own definition of something. Yeah. That's why like I definitely see myself like back then I would try to prove my case, especially with like politics and stuff. But like I don't really like to discuss anymore too much. I just like rather just like hearing somebody out.
Yeah.
Because I already know what the fuck I've already know my stance. Like my sentence has already been clear. Why would I want to read it 50 times? Like let me just read this new book of this other person and just try to hear him out. Mm-hmm. Try to understand why that guy thinks that way.
Yeah, exactly. And I picked up a Che Guevara book. He was like the friend of Fidel Castro, and basically the guy who inspired him. And I was reading like his viewpoint on why Cuba went in the direction that it went. Mm-hmm. And he was like, yeah, it's basically the whole fault of the United States. And it wasn't necessarily the United States, like, oh yeah, the government decides to go and jump on Cuba. I mean, in a sense, that's exactly what they did. I mean, they occupied a lot of territories over there: Puerto Rico, Guatemala, Philippines, Hawaii, and even trained like soldiers out there and stuff like that. So they could have ulterior motives for like to seek out business there. And I mean, that's what people did. They came from America, went to these places, exploited the poor, and it took over their communities, culture, everything. It like kind of ruined their lives because they were hell bent on not really pleasing their own needs and like making sure everything was like sustainable and stuff like that, but like working for the effectiveness of others. And I mean, that's why I think a lot of people hate Amazon, because Amazon will go into places and like pull people from these communities because they pay more. You know, there's really no reform of like the society. It's just like a buffer,
right?
Counter buffer of, I mean, if that's a correct word. of like this thing that helps but also deters. It like just slows everything down, but like people are getting more in a sense, but nothing's really growing, if that makes sense, you know? Like people are only putting their money into these places so these people can get paid the hourly amount they're getting paid. And if it doesn't reach this quota or that, they're going to get cut off, they're going to get laid off. I see this with General Motors. I see this with a lot of big companies working for unemployment. It's like wild how many companies will just lay people off, drop people off because they can't pay them. But they entice them with like higher paid wages. And
I feel like sorry to interrupt you, but it was just I keep on hearing like over like job sites and stuff like them, just like at my job site, but just them saying like it's really hard to find quality work nowadays. Quality like workers. So nowadays people will hire anybody, and then they just like, well, we don't really know what to expect, nor they want to like actually invest into workers.
Yeah.
Like I always hear like, why would you want to train him to the max? What if he just leaves?
And that's the thing, like, and I believe that's why the whole fucking train station leaving for college system is so fucking big, because they assume like, hey, you cement this, like no one can really say no to you. Like they'll literally be letting go of someone who spent time being a dedicated contributor to their knowledge. So there's someone who wants to work, who wants to apply, who wants to just be in the thick of constant production because they like spent years in anxiety, debt, and all shit. Because you see this all the time with like people who, I was just watching this guy, I don't know if you'll ever hear this, but his name is Taekwondo. He's this guy that hops on YouTube and he like teaches guys about game and stuff like that and like talking to women.
Right.
And he basically said, he's like, yeah, I had a degree. Like I was about to get a degree. He was about to do a paid internship for a college for. He's smart, bro. Mm-hmm. He's a good guy, and he dropped all of it to pursue YouTube. Like he had a whole track. He knew exactly what school to apply for at what time and the benefits and everything like that. And he dropped all of it to do YouTube. And I'm like, yo, what the fuck is YouTube offering that will make you drop something that was not only your passion, but like you had stuff lined up for it. Like if you had that shit on your resume, no one could really, like, they want you there.
Right.
You're in the thick of new knowledge. Like, yeah, we want you here.
Right.
Type shit. And he dropped all that for YouTube. Because there's a bag to get to, you know? And there's a life to live. Like, he doesn't...
It's like, you know, it all comes down to the money, bro.
Yeah, but...
People, like...
My thing is, like, once you discover self-mastery and you come to a point of, like, understanding and you know your purpose and you're like, hey, I can be a person who could either...
be useful to everybody, honestly, too.
Be useful to everyone. And that's why I think Nietzsche is just, like... He talks about the Übermensch. And Carl Jung really likes Nietzsche. And he said the Übermensch is basically like a... overman, you know, like he's they or somebody that we want to become, like evolve into, like people who are just completely autonomous to the idea of helping others, living their life so that like the person behind them can like live a good life as well. And I mean, a lot of people see that in capital, you know, like a lot of people see that in money. Like, yo, if I get a lot of money, I'll never have to worry about anything again. Like, but then like, if everyone was on that track...
like, if the only meaning was money, then that's...
Yeah, and that's why I see, like, there's either two ways this could go. Everyone decides to go an autonomous route and, like, make money, and, like, the only people that work at these places are going to be, like, teenagers or shit until they figure out how the fuck to do it. Or we're going to go into a digital society where almost every form of business, because a lot of this shit is service, is automated to a point to where all you really need is technicians. And then everyone's just... And then from that, like, you could definitely see fucking space, like, planetary jumps, and because all we're going to be working on is automation and, like, making things that make things.
Right.
You know? And once we go to fucking Micro Center, we see 3D printers. Like, they make molds of actual things.
Bro, people are going to start 3D printing cars or some shit. Yeah. Have you seen, like, bridges and stuff that they're starting to build now? Yeah, like, you can invest in these companies.
It's hella cheap because we could buy it for, like, $349.
Dude, I still remember, like, in early this decade, I was like, bro, those 3D printers are gonna be way too fucking expensive.
Yes,
Like,
that's what I thought.
it's gonna be a while until those motherfuckers, until we, the like, like just regular people like can afford that shit. Like,
Bro, I
you gotta
remember
have
when
hella
we got
money
it
to make a
in the
business out of that.
school.
You know?
When they got it in the STEM class in the school, and they were like, "Yeah, this shit's like six grand," and I'm like, "What?" I mean,
I
it was
remember,
pretty big.
bro.
It was pretty big, and like it took a lot of time. Like literally, I don't know what he was building exactly. I think it was like a bridge, but I mean, of course, it's gonna take a minute. But he was like, "Yeah, this shit's gonna take like 3 days to fully render and everything." And I'm like, "Wow, 3 days." And like now, you could. I mean, the figure. It depends on the figure, the quality, and everything, detail, whatever. But it takes like 3 hours for like a little man to be built.
Oh, dude, that's like, and hold on, speed printing is like the speed of the printing is now getting faster also. But we're gonna be in the one day that's gonna be like
Exactly. Or it could be just like one of those projector things, and it just builds it.
Oh yeah, I was thinking about that like just in my mind. I couldn't like put it in words. But yeah, we're gonna have like that type of shit, like projectors that just go
And
or
bro,
some shit.
it's hard to deny. Like I could definitely hear, like feel someone like on the other side of listening to this, and they're like, "Well, that's kind of ridiculous." But like 20 years ago, touch phones didn't exist. Didn't
Bro,
exist, literally.
dude, and like nowadays with technology wise, I feel like back then, how like what the civ like 10 years, let's just say in the 60s, like technology, everything improving would take like some like so for something to have like an effect, it would take like 10 years. Nowadays, shit's going
10
at
months.
such fast pace that we keep on looking like I feel like looking at YouTube and I'm like, damn, 2019 them graphics look kind of trash. I was like, what the fuck? Like I was like, shit is just going so fast that we want things to improve at such a rapid pace. And it's like, I was like watching this like movie where like they were like, what if like aliens came? You'd be like, what the fuck? They exist and everything. But I feel like 2 days later, nobody's gonna give a fuck.
Yes, honestly,
like that. I feel like that's how it is.
Genuinely, people will like get used to the fact that aliens, like, oh, I already felt like I did, or they'll like tie some religious thing to it.
Right.
Those are the only two tracks for American, at least.
Honestly, I feel like if aliens came by, they landed that bitch and everything, it'll be hype for like the first maybe 2 weeks. Then later, everybody's like, "Oh, have you seen the thing on Twitter?" It's like, "Oh yeah, it's pretty cool."
Our
and then
infrastructure, like, I think they would just like declare
our attention span is so low nowadays.
Yeah, and it's not even for the right reasons.
That's why like TikTok is so huge.
I mean, I enjoy TikTok for the things that it can bring.
Yeah,
like, it
yeah,
provides
definitely.
me a sense of my aesthetic, and I'm like, these are things that I genuinely like, and this is at least an image that I could further that shows me like what I like. I can't really explain exactly all the things that I like and how I like them, but I've learned through TikTok that I like these earthy tones, and I like this view on like certain places or foods or even design to a degree. Like there's so many amazing things and so many creative people on TikTok, and I think that's what we genuinely wanted out of like school and shit. Like what we said last week about the idea of like us being in school, and there's so many people who probably want to talk to people but don't, because everyone wants to be like this kind of mysterious like person. Like, oh yeah, we have our own clique, but like we could genuinely, all of us could be friends.
Exactly. Like I'd be like, bro, like the people, because dude, like when you go to like second grade or even first grade, a lot of the time you got like a 50% chance that you're gonna be in their surroundings or something around school
for more time than
for
their parents.
Like graduation, basically for more time, and then like y'all still kind of be like, oh hey, or like
you recognize
y'all motherfuckers rather fight each other, or
like I've known you longer than like I've known the internet, my nigga.
Right.
And like it's crazy, and like when you think about it that way, you're like, damn, there's so many things that like mosaic me together.
Like we could have done some shit together or just something like we could have been like brothers or some shit, because like
networked and just
like bro,
helped us do it.
I see you 7 times, like 5 times a day, 7 hours like a week. Like 7 hours every day though, so like what, that 8 hours, like 40 hours of 40-hour work week, and like we can't even like have a sentence together, or
you don't even know my name.
You don't even know my name, or like I've never helped you out on something, or like
I mean, it doesn't always have to be that way, because I mean, humans could be humans and like
right.
everything could be in passing, but it's like if we were fully like I genuinely think about this all the time. If our society was built for us to evolve from where we are right now, like you said, like how shit literally takes 10 months. Everything is an ebb and a flow and then a fucking wave. It's like it happens so fast. Where you have the iPhone and then the next year another iPhone comes out, but like what if another business was doing that but competing at the same level with iPhone? Just like, yo, we're trying to create something that's autonomous and that could go into your head. Like literally Elon Musk is talking about that.
Would you do that, bro?
I mean, I don't know. I would like to see it in action.
I would like to see it in action for a few years and be like,
trying to do is like amazing. If you can cure someone of cerebral palsy and they can start walking because you were able to put a chip in their head, I'd want that shit.
Definitely, bro. And then like just the learning curve. Everybody can learn shit so fucking fast.
It would fix everything. Blindness.
Like, people be like,
everything.
I became a doctor in 2 years, and then be like, no doctor shortage. Everybody knows how to like do shit.
You can look it up and never ever misdiagnose someone because you'll be able to look at the data and never question anything. It would just arrive to you.
Yeah, back then I would be like, nah, it's like AI is gonna control us and shit. I'm like, at the same time, it's like you just can't beat evolution. Like you can't. That's just where we're going.
Yes.
Like,
and I mean, but that's the thing. If we want to be effective to each other to that degree, you know, like there's so many people who are enjoying their way of life right now, and it's not even to a
like
point.
I understand that, but like everybody has their own like years. Like everybody has their own like certain place in time. Which like, all right, evolution has gone to like where we're kind of enjoying. We're at a different type of time than what we've done like 2 decades, but we can't be like that forever. Like shit's gonna be moving. Now it's at a way faster pace and people like don't know what the fuck to do, but we gotta find something. That's why the system has to, you know, reform. basically train us for shit like this.
But not even train us. It's just if we know that's the direction we're going in. Because I mean, I don't know how to communicate that to a broad, like mass of people and have them understand like, hey, your purpose in life essentially is not only to be self-serving but to be community serving. That comes at a sense of self-responsibility, but like you can't travel your whole life, you know. I mean, you can theoretically, but like there's some place you're gonna call home. There's some place that you're gonna like chill at. There's some local store you're gonna want to go to and that you really like, and those people could be struggling just as much as you. And like if we automate those systems where everybody could travel but everyone's still at some level being effective, even in seasons. Because, I mean, you go over Europe, literally, these guys go to sleep in the middle of the day. Like, all the stores close, and they just go home and, like, have a nap hour.
I don't understand that, dude.
It works, though. But, like, over here, we literally get up, hate our jobs, hate the traffic, hate the parking, hate every aspect of our going.
What is that called? 933 or some shit? Bro, China's having it hard with that, man. Dude, those guys have it even worse. Yeah. Those guys wear like 7. Dude, their meetings are 5 hours long and shit. What the fuck do you have to talk about for 5 hours? About like, dude, what the fuck? And then like some people actually agree with that system. Yeah. But like you see that they're like kind of miserable, but they're just like, they kind of like, they're jealous of now other people are starting to like be more self-serving, and then they're like, what the fuck? Like, they're like, that shit's horrible. Just work harder. They like there was this one lady that I saw on YouTube that she was like, she agrees with like I think it's called 993. And she was like, well, if you think you're like fucking, you're just starting to hate the job, just work harder because then you won't have to think about it or some shit that she was giving out. And I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
like,
I mean, that's why I think, because I don't know what would happen, bro, because you want people to have passions for stuff.
Yeah.
But it has to be one of those things where it is directed in a sense, because, I mean, you have to have teachers, you have to have...
we just got to get out of this planet. I feel like
I don't know if that would change anything.
I feel like it would, bro.
Like, we have to build a whole new infrastructure.
Yeah, it's gonna take a while, but
it's gonna be like food would be our guide, you know.
Imagine if you had like 2 planets of people.
Yeah, that would be pretty wild, to be honest.
Because like, it's only one Earth.
Yeah,
there's only so much you can put here.
As soon as we just learn how to build land and put it in the ocean, because you know, like only. I mean, that sounds kind of cryptic. Build land and put it in the ocean.
But it would be cool if we like if everybody could do. I mean, I'm just like thinking geek wise, like
Yeah.
watching Star Wars, where like these motherfuckers were like retire at planets and they just live by themselves in this planet.
Oh, that would be kind of creepy.
But it's just like,
Imagine like what it sounds like at night. Like you're just in the house and it's just
bro, imagine if this was the only house in a planet, and then there's just like
and the darkness. This goes forever. That darkness just goes forever. That kind of scares me.
Whoa. But that would be kind of cool to just like lay back, be like, we're here.
And have no worries.
Bro, that shit would be like, because anybody, bro, there's more planets than people by like trillion times over. You can literally give a planet to every single human being and let them control their own way.
But let me fuck with your mind real quick. It literally, what fuels that planet is a beacon of light.
Right. We could probably create our own shit.
Literally. Like, okay.
Like Halos. You know the Halos from like, Halo 4, like, those like video games where they have that ring.
Yeah.
And then they have those like all that land that people like can be at. It's gonna be us or some shit.
Bro, but like literally, it's a floating orb of light that's trapped in like a dust speck in the air, and it projects so much energy that it could make a whole ass rock turn into a planet with different conditions like raining diamonds. Fucking
Dude, that's crazy.
When they talk about these planets, I'm like, it sounds like cap, but I kind of believe it.
Bro, these scientists found a planet that's like 50 times bigger than Earth, but it's all ocean. All ocean. So they're like,
imagine what the fuck is in that thing. I just like think of like, if there's oxygen there.
nah, because it's just all ocean. That's all it is. It's just ocean. There's no land or nothing.
A ball
of water.
Just from a yo. I mean, we're probably stoned to like someone hearing this is like, yo. I mean, that's kind of trippy, but at the end of the day, like
y'all will understand this if y'all on the hibbities.
We are like the absolute perfect mistake. Like we have a planet that has an even number of almost all things.
See, let me cut you off real quick. See, that's like sometimes when I put like God into perspective, because it's like, how are all these steps aligning? You know what I'm saying? How? Like, how could?
But look,
why does that?
Who said there needs to be an order?
But because
we
look,
did.
okay, well,
we did.
Well, like, would you be like saying that, like, all right, let's just say, because everything has to have like one step after it.
Yeah.
So let's just say we're not talking about people wise or nothing. So like, if you put it like as the Big Bang.
Yeah.
Why did everything started clumping up? Maybe formed a sun, forms a sun. Yeah, but like, what was before gravity? That's to be.
What do you mean?
Because there was nothing before, right?
But see, that's okay.
But like, I mean, I'm just asking. Like,
No,
I don't.
I get what you. I get what you mean.
Yeah.
Because that question is a relevant question. It's an actual question. But the subject here is like, there has to be a before everything.
Right.
Like there has to be a point to where nothing exists, right? But in your lifetime, we only live like 80 years.
Right.
Have you ever seen anything start from the very, very beginning?
I haven't, because we never started from the beginning. You know what I'm saying?
Everything that we've ever created on this planet was already here before we even had the thought for it.
Right. But like, would you?
Why does there have to be a beginning?
Let me put you like this. Like, you see how the family tree is, right? It had to start from one person.
Yeah, but
and then they had to meet from this person. That's step 2. They created a baby. That's step 3. The baby
but
meets.
Those people already existed before they met each other.
Yeah, but they didn't exist before. But then they existed.
They existed and then they met each other.
They met each other. That's part 2. Then they conceived a baby. Yeah, that's part 3.
But what you're saying here is you're saying, how did the planets clump together? What was before gravity? Those are principles that define the action forward. So why do those things need to have a genesis? Like, okay, in terms of, like, let's say God, for example.
Right. It doesn't have to be God. I just put things into God because it's, like, what I'm mostly known. But everybody can have their own belief of, like, what started first. I'm just saying, like...
But where did God come from?
I'm not saying, like, God. Or how could something... If it's, like, there's no plan to nothing... Because it's, like, atoms have, like, information and they know what to do and stuff.
It's not that there's no plan. It's just that these things have a point to where they come into.
But like, I'm like, why does this work with that? You know what I'm saying?
Because it has to.
But why?
Like, it can.
Yeah, but there has to be some sort of like information to do it.
Yeah, exactly. They already have it.
But where did they get it?
It was there already.
Just doesn't. See, dude. Even this is what I be like with people that are even religious. I'm like, what was before God? There has to be a beginning. But they tell me like God is. I'm like,
that's exactly what I'm saying. Though.
They're like, what?
Everything is a happening. It's not that there is a beginning or, I mean, in a historical sense, there is an end. Right. There is a part of time where it's like, hey, he did this up until this point, and then he stopped doing that because he couldn't. But even then, that's like a period. It's not a run-on sentence that implies something after. It's a stop.
So there is no time? Is that what you're saying, kind of?
I mean, in essence, there is time because there are measurements between when things can connect and disconnect. But also,
because it's like time exists. It's not like man-made that we put a time on it, but
you have
everything
imprivations on everything though. Like you have imprints on everything.
Right.
Basically, like your influence on this planet. Like let's say you step on this, that, or etc. It sets things into motion.
Right.
That like replicate other things, influence other things, that allow other things to constantly be affected by your action.
Right.
So I mean, we can be quantifiable beings that end at a certain point, but that doesn't mean the world around us has to revolve around our existence. Because necessarily it doesn't, because I could be here or be anybody, and the things that exist that have made me into who I am were already here, created by somebody else. And that person could be quantifiable, and anything that we make could be quantifiable. And it could stop at some point. Quantitative, I mean. I don't know, like it has a beginning and an end in action. But the things that it creates carry on. Like opals, for example, they're rocks. Right? And under certain conditions, after millions of years, they turn into this shiny orb. And, well, not an orb, but it's like a rock, and it's shiny. And there's things inside of it that were captured by its forming. So, I mean, things that could have died on top of a rock that turned into an opal that fossilized them over millions of years, meaning that these worms stayed in one place for literally 400,000 years, 600,000 years, 900,000 years. In one place. That's not necessarily an end, because what comes after is like, boom, you have an opal. So I mean, even if we die, they literally say that we have like a genius that is also connected to fungi, for example. They say the biggest organism that lives on the planet is a fungi. And as soon as we die in some way, we're going to be connected back to the earth.
Right.
And either we take up the space of the earth that constantly evolves around us, or we're just going to be something that contributes to it and becomes its like. You
think the earth grows as like animals die and stuff by packing up?
Yeah.
You think so?
Oh yeah. I mean, if you look at plants themselves, they are alive organisms. They are things. I mean, even with your water, you can make your water look alive. You add enough. I don't know how to say the correct thing. The hydro. It's like there's this whole process that you can do to your water, that ionizes it, alkalines it, and makes it like a living organism that you like basically drink to serve you, rather than just drinking to be hydrated. I mean, being hydrated serves you, but to a certain degree, there's like different types of water that like actually hydrates your body and doesn't have anything that's like.
It's just the minerals and stuff that it has, yeah.
So I mean, it ionizes like everything, and that's a process. So I mean, what I'm initially saying is that there doesn't necessarily need to be a beginning. There can actually be multiple beginnings, or.
Oh yeah, like with dimensions and stuff. Yeah, I'd believe in like stuff like that, but
what I'm saying is like
why
before Earth there could have been something that could have like came over here and just it was huge and just hit a bunch of stars and knocked them out, and then these things just scattered all around, and boom, boom, boom. We have this over here shining at this angle at this time, and then the planets fall in line and
And
just
then
like
just it's
rotate around that. Because that's literally what's happening, at least to modern day science. We're just flying through space.
yeah.
So I mean, it's crazy to think about, but like so many people are they're stuck in the idea of the game that they're like, there must be a creator, there must be someone who's directing all this shit. Like,
Right.
Then like, why? What's the? Because there's so many people who literally say like, why morals? Why virtues without God? Like, why be a good person without dad?
Let's just say this. For me, it's like my little simulation. Let's just say like, let's just say you're put into this like big ass like 100-acre cubicle, and then like they just add people in there to, to like just make babies and stuff, and then just tell them, do not teach your kids anything about this or that. Let's just see how he grows up, and all these animals create like their own little virtue, like their own little morals and stuff. Like, dude, you can survive without.
You can survive without anything. You could literally like, you won't stop making noise if you don't know how to speak. Or like you'll learn how to speak in order to communicate because you want someone to hear you, and that's
Right.
literally why we built our societies the way that we did, and we functionalized things like even paper. We exchange paper for items,
Right.
and that paper is quantifiable to our time, and that quantifiable time is
We have our own little systems of morals and stuff. Like that's just what they say. Like you think if like, how would I say it? It's like let's just say there's like no God and stuff. Like we would to order to benefit because I feel like instilled that to reproduce, to grow the race, like grow the human race.
But we need motivation
like
to do that.
like Anna, like my cat, she gets like in heat every month because that's just like genetically so that they can like keep their species alive.
Yeah.
I feel like that's how humans are, and we're not gonna
Exactly
like if
how we are. We're animals.
we're not gonna have like we're not gonna have morals. Well, yeah, that's exactly. But we're not gonna have like animals don't really think about morals, but they're not. You don't see them. You don't see them having like World War V, like killing each other and shit. Like
definitely be killing each other.
they
don't
kill
have
each other,
land
but
to protect.
for a reason. They have
Yeah.
like even animals have like some sort of
sometimes.
because animals don't really want to fucking animals like are scared of us. Like lions don't just see us and want to kill us. Like they want to be like, oh, this guy
Dude, if they're hungry
wants
enough,
to kill. Yeah. They have a
kill you.
reason. They have a reason.
Yeah.
They're
But
not just
I
gonna
can't- I
like
can't
see
break it,
you
but I
and then
can't-
just gonna
I can't break into your house and steal your food because I'm hungry.
right.
They can. There's no law and order. With us, that's what we establish. So in this,
Well, lions. Every other animal has their own little law and order,
Hierarchy.
the hierarchies and
Yeah.
stuff. But that's how it is. Like you're not gonna have some crazy ass lion
Because
fucking up this pride because you're gonna get pushed out. That's how it exactly is
They
with
move
the
in- they
with
move
the
in
human
herds.
race.
That's us. We move
We
in
have
herds.
jails. If you're not fucking cooperating to improve the society, you're going to jail, bro.
But that could be
So it does. I mean,
Michelle-
the law system's fucked up, but
Yeah, I'm
but
about to explain something to you as well. Because are you familiar with Michel Foucault?
no.
So Foucault is he's a postmodernist. Jordan Peterson really doesn't like him that much. I mean, he really doesn't like postmodernism at all because he thinks that it goes down to just fighting about identity politics. And I mean, I agree to a certain extent.
Right.
But Foucault, he brought up this point of the idea of, I'm not really sure what he called it, but if anyone really has the time, you should go and listen to Philosophize This by Stephen West. It's another podcast, so shout out to him. He's amazing. He basically breaks down philosophers and he talks about their ideals. And he talked about Michel Foucault and like how society in a way is fueled by like imprisonment. Like it's fueled by me making sure you understand what's going on, you making sure I understand what's going on in certain degrees and parameters, because we hold these kind of positions that allow us to reprimand the actions of others. So I mean, it then boils down to the idea of like, hey, there is a patriarchy. There's certain forms of people who like hold dominion over other things. And I mean, in a sense, that's exactly what it is. Someone who started something that provided opportunity, and you being trapped in those conditions of that opportunity, and it's not serving your reality, so you feel controlled by that, and it's your whole like essence. And that's why so many people want to break from that, because they don't believe in that hierarchical system. Because you have to answer to this and you have to answer to that. They don't want to follow the rules necessarily, they don't want the system to fall apart.
They're just creating their own little system.
Yeah.
They're exporting to another different
But
system.
they
But that's
think
not like
they
they're
think
gonna
of,
lose morals. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
They
they
have their
do
own
though.
little.
In that system, they lose morals when they get to a point where those morals they feel only serve the people that are in benefit.
But that's
So
what I'm saying. Like they lose morals to gain another type of morality. But it's just exactly like we all have kind of morals. I don't know where
but
I'm
with
getting to, but
God, literally, you have the Bible. I think it's Matthew 16 that talks about the Matthew principle. Maybe Matthew 16 through 21. I can't really. I know it's in Matthew. It is 16 or 21. It's one of those. Or it might no. I think it's Matthew 18. Hey Siri. Hey Siri.
they give you the pen. Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's funny. Anyway, they have this principle that basically says, for those who have much, more will be given. For those who have nothing, more will be taken. That's something someone wrote down. This book also like facilitates the idea of slavery, other things, and I mean it's a book. At the end of the day, you could really pick and choose. But if you want to like separate the art from the artist, majority of this shit was like made during imperialism when people were moving across places trying to gain like people. They needed people,
Right. Yeah.
so
Because
they
that was
created a
honestly the
system.
biggest form of like currency.
Yeah, they needed bodies for like and a mission and an idea.
People
And
to
before they could
control more
explain-
people.
Before
Yeah.
they could explain philosophy, they came up with God. Nietzsche talks about this idea where the reason why people created God was because they were overwhelmed by the feelings in which they had, and they believed, they were like, hey, I can't give this to myself, so where does it come from? And then that idea spanned it off to like, maybe I'm influenced by the things around me, but how did they get here? So then they basically get into the conversation with themselves, or at least a group of people like we just had, and then someone's like, well, because this is before they knew the planet spun the way that it did. They saw the things out in the air, but then they were like, maybe that spins around the planet, because that's what it looks like, because it's farther away, it's smaller. We think we're the biggest thing out. Copernicus comes around. Niggas like, no, we actually revolve around the sun. Science. Bitch. And then they're like, no, trap that nigga in his house. Don't let him leave. The fuck he talk about? Because they couldn't dismiss him with other things like, oh yeah, he's the devil. He worships this. Because that's literally how they disenfranchised people back then. If you were a king and the Pope of the time was like, hey, I took your name out of the book of life, you're not going to heaven. There was literally a story that I learned in history class in like 9th grade where this guy went to the Pope's house, or like the priest's house, and he begged on the floor. The king begged on the floor and was like, you have to put it back in there. Like, I don't want to go to hell. They had it so instilled that even the idea of God tortured people. So, I mean, there's a movie called Silence, directed by Martin Scorsese.
Mm-hmm.
And it
I've
basically...
never seen that one.
I think we have. I think we watched that at Gustavo's house. All of us.
What's it about again?
It's about these Portuguese priests, Portuguese priests who go to Japan to find their mentor. And he basically was taught it into the way of life by the government of Japan, like the shoguns and everything. They basically they're trying very hard to push Christianity out of Japan because they don't want to be like Europe, where they basically get indoctrinated into Christianity, and it changes their society.
Japan is like mostly Confucius, right?
It's mostly Buddhism.
Japan?
I mean, well, Confucius is kind of Buddhist. So I mean, the idea of Buddhism, you have Taoism, Taoism. There's all types of isms with Buddhism, but the idea is that you live life through suffering. Like you everything lives and will eventually die, but at a certain point, like you can have an influence to a point where you never die because you impose your existence on other things. And we do that literally, and we have all our quotes and things to explain it, but to a degree, like, we do it in essence to either gain something back or know that we control a process. And with Buddhism, they're basically like, hey, you are not your body, you are just your body experiencing, or you're just this experience, that your consciousness experiencing humanness. You know, I'm high. Anyway, you're something going forward, and you can be mindful in the present to be able to live through consciousness. And as soon as you're able to do that, then that's when you'll be able to focus on passion, even if you have to do like even if you have to quantify your time to certain things. Because I mean, a lot of these people like live off the earth because they want to give themselves a reason to be fully there. It's like, I have to be. If I'm not, then I'll die. I mean, that's literally where we are. That's where animals are. Like, I always ask myself, like, what the fuck are these these squirrels looking for? Do they eat every day? What about like fucking birds? Do they eat every day? Do they eat 3 times a day?
I think they eat more than that, don't they?
Stray cats. What do they eat 3 times a day? I've been watching a cat for the past 3 days. I've seen her eat twice. I mean, that's probably not good, but like, I mean, I'm not asleep when she's, well, I'm asleep when she's awake most of the time, so she probably is eating when I'm asleep. She's domesticated, so I mean, think about, like,
so you got the cat? Okay.
Like feral cats or like wolves. There's probably seasons where they go without finding something to eat, and if they do, like, they probably spend all their time doing that, just eating or trying to eat. Just to survive. And I mean, it's probably not even dumbed down to that for them. It's like just instinct. It's like, hey, I'm hungry right now. I need to tear into this.
Oh, sorry to cut you off there, but it was I saw this YouTuber that he went to like Africa and went to like go hunt with these African tribes and stuff. And they were like, he just tried to ask him some questions like, what do you think is the meaning of life and stuff, and they're just like, food. That's all they talk about, just food. Like, yeah. He's like, what would you be doing if you weren't like? He's like, oh, I'm just like, what do you usually mostly do? What do you think about? He's like, oh, I think about honey, and like, I'm like,
yeah, bro. I mean, when you take money out of the equation, your life gets super duper simple. It gets so simple to the point to where you're like, yo, these days are long. Like, I can't even listen to this stuff anymore. It's like, there's the grind's not there for me. I'm already here, like, to a point. And I mean, you can enjoy these things because you understand the phonics of it. Like, you understand that kind of language, culture, vibe. And you can, like, pick that apart and, like, literally be enthused by those things.
Right.
But, like, for a lot of people, when the whole drive to them was money, and they had the end-all, be-all of that experience, and they've, like, collected as much as they need to survive, if they stop and, like, retire, then they start to realize, hey, like, I'm gonna pick up like a fucking YouTube channel, or like I'm gonna start building cars, or like they'll do something simple.
Yeah, exactly.
Or like hobbyish, but like it won't. You can't do that 24/7, 7 days a week. I mean, some people they do because they start organizations, festivals, all that. Which all, I mean, at the end of the day, the money comes out of that, but like it's driven through passion.
Exactly.
And that's what I want people to realize. Like, when you mean to become, you go.
That's and a clothing brand.
You find passion, because you are in a sense a fucking camel. You're just something that carries around the installments of other fucking entities that like impose things on you. That's all you really are. And once you go into the fucking desert carrying all that, and you find a huge like area where like you can fully be yourself without any influence. And when I'm saying this, I mean all metaphorical, or like these are things that you could probably do on your own in your room. Just be able to dive through yourself. And I mean, there's people who call they call it like shadow work or this, that, etc. But this is essentially what it is. It's just like finding what you're influenced by, breaking it down to how it relates to your everyday life, and then growing from that an intended will. And then as soon as you have an intended will and you point where you want to go, because I mean, people do this to a sense, but they do it to like pit stops. Like, if you don't have enough fervor to get to the next pit stop, like, you're gonna be stuck,
right?
Type shit. And that's where a lot of people are. They have to get out their vehicle and walk for the majority of their life. But by the time they're able to find that like fast track, or even like a place where they don't have to walk anymore, they kind of want that.
Right.
That kind of resistance band. And what I'm saying, that resistance band could be your passion, it could be your family, it could be your community. But that all starts with a self-responsibility. And once you realize your self-responsibility and quit the resentment and that idea, and you move in the direction of like having a track, being able to quit school and pursue your passion, or like leave your family's house because you want to like go out into that metaphorical desert like an Alexander Supertramp. Like you want to separate yourself from things and live off the earth and know what it's like to be a Sid Arthur type shit. Then that's when you become that kind of like lion, that kind of king of your own will.
Right.
But I mean, as soon as you do something like that, you're gonna find yourself in another resistance. Cause you ever notice like you'll tell like a parent or someone who you assume is like above you, like, hey, yeah, I'm about to go ahead and start this business, or like, hey, I'm about to like put like 40% of my check inside of Forex or like stocks. The first thing they say is like, hey, oh no, that's not what you do. That's not what you do. You like literally you never heard them talk like this. You never heard them talk like this. They never talk like this to you. You save up.
Dude,
and then,
only the poor save, bro.
And then literally, they say, you ask the question,
gotta invest it.
What am I gonna do with the money, anyways? Well, I mean, yeah, you could do like a 50-30-20 thing and like never run out of. But mom, I'm trying to put this money into something that's gonna make me more money. So I'm not losing money. I can take it out at any time. It's like a bank. It's like me just literally transferring it over to another account. But when you say it like that, they're like, oh, okay. But like initially that resistance, that thou shalt, is them being like, hey, no, I want you to have security. So your security, along with your influence, is out of your hands. So, I mean, essentially what I'm saying is, like, if you don't even have actual control over reality, like, if you can't make a decision and be like, hey, I'm going to wake up at this time tomorrow, I don't give a fuck what anybody says, I'm waking up at this time, I'm doing this, you're controlled, you're still swaddled, you're in a fucking cradle, essentially. You can milk your 9 to 5, still have the Forex thing, but, like, what I'm saying is, like, if we can't get to a point to where everyone can have a part-time job and just live the rest of their life, what the fuck are we striving for? What are we waking up every day for? What are we really spending our money on?
Just doing the same shit. That's why it's called a rat race.
Yeah.
Because you're just a rat going like the same fucking circle because you're gonna get this, get the paycheck, pay off the rent, All right, I'm done. Next month, get the paycheck, pay the rent, All right, next paycheck,
And there's people out there who literally talk to kids about toys and dress up as characters that are able to have acres of land for $400,000. Literally 130 acres, bro. For $400,000.
Who bought that?
This dude off TikTok. He was like, yeah, I mean, that's still a lot of money, but that's for what it's worth. I'm like, for what it's worth? You can have a whole family of deer living in your backyard. You can have lineages of animals living around you. You have so much room to plant, to grow. You could have a whole ass concert, movie, and studio grow. You can build a city behind your house. And that's only for $300,000. And people are out here working their whole lives, having to have a couple grandparents die in order for them to buy a fucking house next to a school, my nigga. Like, that's depressing as shit. But it's the truth. It's literally reality. And that's what most people are striving to get to. That's what they admire. That's what they love. There's a passivism to the idea of Amazon. Like, they'll hate Amazon all day. They'll say we live in a current dystopia. But like you said, Alibaba exists. Wish exists. We get rid of Amazon, it doesn't matter. They're just going to come over here. And then we're like, oh, they paid you 16? We'll give you 18. Fuck them. And you can work from home.
Y'all be like, yeah. And then
exactly. Like, it's not really the idea. They're just arguing with the conditions. They don't think they're virtue enough or more moral enough to make the conditions work for everybody.
Right.
When in reality, if you didn't want to be here and there's a better option, why are you here? And I mean, a lot of people, they run into that question and was like, bro, it's not that simple. But literally, it is. Like, bro, we have steady. We have, like I said, bro, I got the job that I have now literally off Career Builders from a contractor who was working for them. So I'm not even connected or really even have all the licensing to be doing my job. But I was taught it in 4 weeks. I hit the ground running, and I'm good as everyone. I'm doing the same shit as everybody. I'm non-distinguishable in this pathway, but I'm benefiting from that job. I might not like it every day, and it might not be a thing, but I know what I want to do after. There isn't
exactly. You're not just
here. I'm not.
Like,
This
well,
is not a
all
fucking
right.
dead-end job.
I guess this is what I'm gonna do, and I'm like, right? It's like, I guess this is what I'm gonna do, but not like. He's like, nah, I got my own little thing too, you know. Like, I'm trying to grow that also.
And yeah, I'm glad I discovered that when my only stress was like food and like clothes, you know. And I mean, I'm glad I'm out of that phase now too, where I'm just like hell bent on consumerism. I mean, there's like a lot of shit where I like it, but I'm like, yo, it's fucking ridiculous to spend $400 on a pair of shoes. Like, that's crazy. That's insane, bro. If you come up to me and you're like, bro, are those reps? I'm gonna be betting your eyes. I'm gonna be like, yes, fam. These some Rep New Balances. 10 years ago, I could buy these at fucking Payless for $30, and now I gotta pay $450 for them. You could suck my dick. But that's actual life. Like, people, we're stuck in that where we're just like bent on the idea of like
consumerism is really our
to prove to ourselves that we can do them at the cost of who we could be in the future. Like, yeah, you could get to a point where you never have to worry about the price of shoes. And you could really, I would still be buying reps because I don't want to pay that much for something that I'm going to fuck up.
It's just ridiculous, man.
And it can't exist without infrastructure that wants to be in place of other things, that wants to capture the audience that's not willing to participate in certain conditions. Because those exist. And if we don't have people that have that kind of passion, or even have that kind of will to step into those things, because it either benefits them, or is another aspect of who they want to be, then we're just going to create places where everyone's just making sure we got all the definitions right, and we're all moving in one direction, everyone looks like each other. It's going to be stupid, and boring, and not fun. There won't be anything to overcome. There won't be a goal to reach. Like, you need that form of resistance. That's how you grow muscle. That's how you even get healthy. You fight off things every fucking day. Your body is constantly at work. We don't pay that shit. A lot of niggas just, they wake up, drink coffee, eat dead animals, and go back to sleep. Hell, some niggas don't even eat. Some people don't even want to leave their rooms. Like, do you know how much, like, literally, setting a fucking time when you go to sleep and wake up, and taking like a 30-minute walk, it could be a slow one, at least looking in the direction of the sun, could change your life. There's multivariate analysis on this. It could change your life. I'm not saying it's gonna fucking make you lose 30 pounds. I mean, if you do it long enough, it might. But at least getting out into the sun could change your life.
Simple shit, man. We forget about it.
And all of us are like, when it's time to have these conversations, we talk about God, we talk about this, we talk about dreams, we talk about that, we talk about motivation. But like, we're not there to even be in the application. We're not in the same room as the person that we're talking about. And even if that person's us, like, we're just not. We're disconnected in a way.
Yeah.
The podcast probably stopped.
Oh, shit. You think so?
Oh.
No. We got 10 seconds left, guys. All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed that conversation with me and Zion. Check out next week's every Mondays. This one's coming out Monday also.
You want to get on Station Ed?
Sign out. Yeah. Hey, follow us on Station Ed also, guys.
Facts.